Did you know this podcast is powered by Acast? Acast is the home of podcasting. For creators looking for freedom to grow their listeners and make money too. And creative brands looking for smart ways to advertise. Podcasters and advertisers in the know Acast. It's time you did too. Visit acast.com to find out more. Acast, for the stories.
Hi everyone and welcome to What a Flanker, the podcast series 2. Now my guest today is one of the biggest names in the world of DJing. He's been at the top of his game for over 40 years. He's known as one of the nicest people in the music industry. I'm a huge fan. I'll try and control myself. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the legend that is Carl Cox.
Well, thank you for that intro. It's absolutely amazing. I'm really happy to be here, James, and thanks for asking me to be here to talk to yourselves. It's been long overdue, and your wife really is an amazing person. You know, at the end of the day, because she made it happen. Okay, not you.
She did. No, I know.
She did. Okay,
I know. Well, I have to give a bit of context. That. So obviously, for those people who follow me, know that I've got into DJing and I've been a fan of music for a while. I've got into production recently, but obviously one of my DJing heroes I talked about when I was in the jungle and I'm a celebrity was obviously the man I've got on the podcast today, Carl Cox. And my wife, unbelievably, for a birthday, contacted Carl to ask him, would he give me a DJ lesson or would he spend some time with me? And first of all, what an incredible man. He actually got back to her. So if it wasn't for my wife, who gave me the ultimate present, we wouldn't be here today. So otherwise I would have probably been arrested for stalking. So Carl, it's great to be here. Albeit via digital link, so you don't have to be in person. You're not that comfortable to make sure you can't be here in case I get a bit weird, which is always good. So where are you in the world?
Right now I am in Melbourne, Australia, and I've been here, since the pandemic, since this time last year. And I mean, a lot of people know that I spend a lot of time here every year. I bought a house in a place called Mornington Peninsula here, just south of the city. It's a beautiful place. It's really gorgeous. And since 2003. So I've been kind of going back and forth. And what I try and do, James, actually, is to miss the winters in Europe. That's what I try and do. And so I'm kind of come back. I'll sneak back into the UK around about April, May. And I go, there we go. A bit of sun. And then I'm all the way there through till about September, October. And I go, it's 18 degrees. Right, let's go. And jump on the flight, back to Australia, and it's like spring, summer in Australia, like, yoo-hoo. So the idea really, James, is that I just end up keeping my colour up. That's what I do.
Mate, that is a great plan. And do you know what? I made a mistake we had a couple of days of sunshine here, and I came to London to record these podcasts, and I turned up with only T-shirts, and I've been walking from the hotel to where I am in 5 degrees, and even people are like stopping going, I don't think you're quite right in the head. So I like what you're doing. I need to be more successful to chase the summer, I think.
It can be done. I'm sure it can.
I'm sure it can be done. But how are you anyway? Because obviously, I imagine for somebody who was as busy as you were, it's been like someone has just pulled the handbrake up on the nightlife scene. So how are you? Like, how are you mentally? How are you physically?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good analogy, pulling the handbrake up. It feels like they pulled the handbrake up and done and the 360s still keep going, for a whole year. It's been difficult, I have to say, because unfortunately throughout all of this, my father died also in the middle of it all. And I wasn't able to go and see him with the funeral. I had to basically watch him have the service on YouTube, and just outside of my birthday as well. And I'm just like, blimey, can it get any worse? My dad was been ill for quite a while. He was suffering with dementia, and I was just like, I can't believe that I'm not able to really see him, based on what's happened here as well. So it was a bit of a double whammy, really, based on what's happened. And nobody was prepared or ready for any of this. I was in America doing my first American kind of club tour for the last 10 years, and it was all going well. And I got to Houston, Texas, and I sat there watching the TV, and Donald Trump was there telling people that, look, we're really sorry, we're going to close the borders. There is some sort of pandemic. It seemed to be quite serious, but anyone needs to get out now. Anyone that's staying here, we're going to lock everything down. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is really serious. So, I jumped on the plane. I thought, what, now do I go to the UK? Do I go to Australia? So I went to Australia. I jumped on the flight from Houston. We managed to get a flight quite quickly from Houston to Los Angeles. And then when we got to Los Angeles, the flight attendant goes, right, if you do get on this flight, you're going to be self-quarantining for 2 weeks. I'm like, self-quarantining for 2 weeks? What am I going to do for 2 weeks? This is impossible. I want to get back at it. Anyway, I thought, all right, well, we get off the plane and get in the car, get home, and then don't go out for 2 weeks. I mean, I haven't done that since I was at school. You know what I mean? When I was about 14, 15 years old. It's like, how do you do that? Anyway, so I got back to my house in Australia. There was no food in the kitchen. Friends of mine were bringing food around, parcels. You can't go out they were in masks and stuff and social distancing. I'm like, oh my God, it really is crazy. And what's even worse is that they said, you really do have to stock up on toilet paper. And I'm thinking, things are getting really toilet paper. I'm like, what is happening? So I'm stocked up with toilet paper and I sat in my house and watching the news and just seeing the whole world go to crap. And I was just like, wow, what do we do here? So I thought, well, the best thing for me to do was that I got my record collection here in my garage, and the whole thing, and what's kept me sane, to be honest, in some ways, is that I'm able to still share the love of my music through the social media, was the internet, was me picking up my phone and then going, right, I'm going to go live and I'm going to play these records that I've had in there for years and years and just enjoy the moment of the ideal of that I've got to a place where I'm able to do this right now. And that's how basically Cabin Fever, the final session, was born. Because I just do want to really just do a live stream for live stream's sake. I think people know who I am. I think people know I can mix 10 turntables, 15, 20. It doesn't matter. I think people know who Carl Cox is. So it doesn't matter now. I'm going to play the music that got me here. Funk, soul, disco, hip hop, 80s funk, soul, jazz funk, hard techno, all the elements, breaks, drum and bass. I've got it all on vinyl. And it's been a revelation, to be honest. But I was only supposed to do I'll do 1 a week for 4 weeks, like a month. And then it's like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, change venue to my studio. And today, right now, I'm up to show number 51. Can you believe it, that it's gone this far, a whole year?
Insane.
And every single show is on vinyl. Every single track is either it's either mixed by me and curated, and every single thing that you see, it's a one-shot deal, James. As soon as I put that first record on, it gets recorded like that. There's no edits, there's no top and tailing. I'll do some spiel at the beginning. I don't even know what I say. I'll just go, yeah, there's my records. I'm going to play this week, and bang, there it is. And it's just been amazing. And DJ Mag were really behind the show, and they we won a best solo stream for the DJ Mag Best of British, which I thought was fantastic. I'm not anywhere near the UK, and here I am winning this award because of it. So there's a lot of goodness there, but all of this kept me sane. It's been keeping me sane based on where I am. But now I've been making a lot of music in my studio. I've been doing a lot of remixes as well for a lot of artists. And I'm looking to sign a new record deal eventually with a label which I can't mention at the moment, but it's this close and it's looking really good. The last time they signed me was 30 years ago, so that might give you a chance to think who that could be. But because of all of this, this is what's been happening. So, and again, I mean, my vegetable garden, I've been growing vegetables, chilies, I've been chives and thyme, all this eggplant and potatoes. I'm like, where did I become a gardener? And that can basically grow things, and also my kitchen skills, banana bread, with shepherd's pie, chicken and mushroom soup. And I'm a bit of a chefy, actually. I can cook. But all of this has come out because of the pandemic. So, yeah. I'm trying to just keep, the momentum of who I am going, and hopefully on a day-to-day basis we can get back to where we would like to be, where we were from before, which obviously will change. But right now, this is where I am.
But mate, do you know what? This is what I love about you, and why everybody who in the music industry are fans of you, just your infectious energy. To start that conversation, to say, sadly, you lost your your father, which, please, to take my condolences for that, obviously in a really difficult period. And I know a lot of people who listen have lost loved ones, and just, it's such an odd world we live in where you just say, you can't go and celebrate somebody's funeral, you can't go and celebrate life, you've got to watch it virtually and all those those stuff. But for you to roll on to that and use kind of your mental strength, I mean, were there any moments that it got you a little bit? Because everything you've said is kind of what my approach to life, which is if you keep momentum, a bit like a shark. If a shark stops swimming, it dies. You seem like you've gone, right, I'm going to deal with this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and you sort of filled your time. Is that how you deal with those pressure moments, things like that?
Well, I know my mum, because my mum also died as well 5 years ago. I know what it's like to move on from it. Obviously, you have your feelings about losing your parents in such a way, but they're upstairs somewhere going, son, this is who you are, and we would not want you to stop being who you are. And if that's being a DJ, sharing a love of music, that's what we want you to do. So it's a spirit that drives me into the day. They're not here physically. I can't pick the phone up and say hi, how you doing, or anything. They're just not here. But the spirit of them is in me, and I just drive that spirit because of them. And what was really cleansing in some ways, and what probably one of the most difficult shows I've ever done in my life, is where I did a tribute show for my father on cabin fever. And we had the Prime Minister of Barbados, because my family from Barbados, also showed condolences by having a Zoom meeting with me throughout the show, which was like, we heard that the Prime Minister was also very interested in supporting me and based on what's happened. And behind me we set up the video and the microphone and everything, talking to her, and I'm thinking, how the hell am I talking to the Prime Minister of Barbados about my father that's just died? And here I am, with the show, all the music that I curated for the show is all my dad's records, the music that I grew up with, that I listened to. And every single tune that I played was because of his record collection. It was his music. So it was very, very hard to do that show. And everyone felt it when I did it. And afterwards, I was just bawling my eyes out. I was just like, whew, it was very tough, man. Very, very tough place to be at that particular time.
I can only imagine how difficult it was being. I think, like you're right, they're looking down wherever they are and celebrate that. And what a tribute, to be able to share his music and his taste, because that's what I wanted to ask you about. So everybody knows the man we see today, right? But obviously I was quite late to kind of music, and I want to know where it all sort of started for you. Was it, obviously you mentioned your dad into records. Was that what sparked you into music? Was your mum into music? Like what created the Carl Cox we see today?
Well, I think, James, more than anything, my family are from the Caribbean, and they're very, happy-go-lucky people. They used to every year celebrate the island, because the island is just full of sugarcane. So they used to harvest all the sugarcane. And then at the end of their harvest, they used to have a celebration called Crop Over. And Crop Over was just like not in all carnival of Barbados. There'd be all the floats and everyone dancing around, dancing to calypso music and soca. And my parties at home, mum and dad's home, was always like that. It was like the Crop Over every time they had a party at the house. So I was like 7, 8 years old, and I'm upstairs in my room. This is in the UK, in Carshalton, in Surrey. And I hear all this music being played downstairs, Think by Aretha Franklin, Get Up Off of That Thing by James Brown, and all this music, and my mum and dad's friends, woo, screaming and smoking. Oh, I don't know what they're doing, And I'm just like, I'm trying to get asleep here, you know what I mean? It's like, anyway, so I remember coming down to Bannisters one night, and I was just looking at them all, just thinking, my God, this is a real scene. And my dad saw me, and he went up, and he said to me, he said, look, son, you can either do one or two things. You can either go to bed, or you can come downstairs and put these records on and don't move until I tell you. So I was like, yes, I'm going to come downstairs and put these records on and see them all dancing to my selection, sort of thing. And that's how it started. I was, basically child slave labour for my father.
But child slave labour selector. You were already a selector at the early age, like the pressure, because you know what parents like. First of all, they let you out of bed, which you shouldn't be out of bed, and secondly, they put the whole pressure of the night on, and you probably didn't know what you were looking at in terms of the music. So you go and pull some weird off-piece jazz record on, and changes the vibe completely. That was a good early lesson for DJing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was very eclectic in my very early age, to the point that I was really interested in who Dwayne Eddy was, who Elvis Presley was, who Sam and Dave was, and Diana Ross and the Supremes, and all this sort of stuff. So I used to go record shopping with my dad, and then hear the different sounds through Tamla Motown or Stax Records or the Philly sound and all this sort of stuff. So eventually, I just used to listen to radio with the headphones, just listen to Tommy Vance on Luxembourg, or I used to listen to early BBC Radio 1 or Radio Jackie, all this sort of stuff. I just constantly listen to music and then write down the titles of them and then go and find them to be able to play as my own collection within my father's collection. And eventually, my dad stopped buying records and he trusted my selection to play the music to his family and friends. So that's how it happened.
And when did you think you wanted to do this more seriously? Because everybody I've talked to, some of the incredible DJs I've been lucky enough to talk to, a lot of them say the parents were the influence in their music, had a real, that was it. Their friends were obviously into it. But I want to talk about the record, going to record shops in a second. But when did you actually go, I want to be a DJ? Because when I was talking to Alan Fitzpatrick, he was saying that it was his first gigs were to his three mates in his bedroom, and they were all into it, and they would rotate round, and one of them would go, this is shit, this is good. And that's how he sort of got into it. You were playing to your parents. And obviously probably quite loving the fact that if you put on a record, the screams would go louder, the dancing would get more aggressive. And was that what made you want to do it permanently?
The thing, it was just a bit of giggle. It got me out of bed to do something that I was experiencing and enjoying. But at the time, you just need money, to buy records or to buy a sound system or anything to do with being able to play this music to an audience. So I had the same scenario as Alan, where I used to have something in my bedroom and the boys would come round, listen to music, and I'd play music to them. But then at the same time, I was always in the building trade. I was an odd carrier. I would be mucking for plasterers. I would be a labourer for, I was actually a chippy's mate for ages. And you know what, one thing I hated about being a chippy's mate, we used to do this thing where we were building the roofs, and you had to put the wood between the slats and then knock the nails in so you could put the tiles on. I used to hit my thumb every bloody time. Bam! And I was like, right, I'm definitely not going to be a bloody chippy, that's for sure. I hate this job. But I did it because I was earning good money. And my last job was actually was being a labourer for a scaffolding firm, which, to the point that I took over the role of running two gangs, and eventually not just one, two. I used to drive the truck, load it up, go to the jobs, put up all the 20x20s on my own, all that sort of stuff. And to be honest, it was kind of encroaching on my DJing work on the weekends, because I would always do birthday parties, school discos, some weddings at that particular time. When I was 14, 15, 16 years old, and then 17, 18 years old when I was basically scaffolding. And here's another story. So Twickenham, which you know very well, the rugby place. In 82, 83, I did the scaffolding all round it, just so we could basically make the tin roof so they can paint the bloody thing. So,
oh my God! So Twickenham was put up by Carl Cox. What?
Scaffolding around Twickenham was put up by me, and we nearly died actually, because we put in one of the tubes on, and wind took one of the tubes. It went over the side when it was about 40 foot up, and we all had to just run inside the building, so the tube went outside. All we could hear was ding, 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 and that was it. I nearly died there.
Oh my God! Well, I've nearly died there a few times as well. Yeah. Mainly because I got yellow card and the crowd wanted to beat me up. But apart from that, just talk to me quickly about, that obviously some people go straight from something to without having a career in the real world. Like, for example, rugby players back in the day, when it was semi-professional, they used to have careers as well. So, for example, I would train Tuesday, Thursday nights, but I would be a lawyer. Right. Obviously, in the modern era, all I've ever known is being a professional sportsman, but I've always done work outside of it. You had a life before you became the biggest name in DJing. Do you ever get messaged? Has anyone ever gone, one of your old gang, and gone, Carl, do you remember us? We used to be putting scaffold out, used to drive the van, used to shout at everyone. Do you ever get anything like that?
All the bloody time. I get it all the time. Oi, Coxie, we remember you, when we used to go to a place called Cliff's Cafe in Roseville.
Love it. Yeah.
Cliff's Cafe. And so we used to go in there and get like a roast beef dinner for the afternoon. And then at the side of Cliff's Cafe, there'd be like a couple of pinball machines. So we used to bunk off school, right? Go to Cliff's Cafe, ding, 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 play the pinball machine, and then stay there all the way through until we had to go home from school. And then I used to go home from school pretending that I've been to school, but I've been in Cliff's Cafe. That's what it did great roast dinners in there.
I love the fact you had a roast dinner every afternoon. That's so professional. There's a professional grazer right there. No wonder you've got a vegetable garden and you've been practicing. But you're having roast dinners every afternoon.
It was quite funny. But here's the thing, though, James. After all of that, I decided that the calluses of my hands were getting way too big, and I've had enough of scaffolding, and I'm going to have to take the plunge between going as a semi-professional DJ or carry on running a scaffolding company. So where I was earning roughly about £500 or £600 a week, because obviously scaffolding was pretty good and lucrative at those times, especially how I was working. I went to that to £60 a week, being a semi-professional DJ, because that's how much work there was. There wasn't that much work, but I just thought, you know what, I'm going to try and follow my path of what I believe I know I can do. And what helped me really was the Prince's Trust. So old Prince Philip many years ago started up a regime where you could start up your self-employed business, and if you had £1,000 in your business, or you could raise £1,000, and then the Prince's Trust would give you £1,000 to start up your own self-employed business, and that's what I did. I was eligible to do that, and I started up my own mobile disco business, which that's what started.
That's what I was going to ask you. Were you like the original mobile disco? Like you turn up in a van for a wedding, get your vinyl out, get your turntables out, set your little lights up, and that was it?
Yep, 100%. That was me for at least, I would say, 8 to 10 years. I did some of the most amazing weddings that you can ever remember. I remember doing this proper gypsies wedding, right? I don't know how I got this job, but anyway, it was a Holiday Inn in Heathrow Airport. Anyway, so I had my van, I got myself down and everything, and I got in there, and they were like proper gypsies, all right, boy, got to, and as somebody that knows someone who's got the job, they were going to give me cash, it was really good money, and I was like, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell do they going to want from me music-wise? I don't know what the gypsies dance to, So anyway, I just thought I'll get the top 40 records out, some rock and roll, and some reggae and all sorts of stuff. And I thought, to be honest, if I don't get this gig right, I'm going to get absolutely killed.
Filled in, yeah.
Because you're rubbish. I don't know who booked you. It could be that boy, it could be this boy. Anyway, so I managed to save myself. And then to the point where they came up, actually, there was a fight, between the groom and the best man, because the best man said it should have been him, and it wasn't. And so they had a big fight. So when I went on, they was all outside having a proper fisticuffs. And I'm thinking, well, this is easy money. You know what I mean? Or I hope I'm going to get paid. But anyway, they all came back in. One of them went to a hospital. They all had a really good party. I came in and they said, that was a really good set, boy. No problem. Here's £20 extra, and and good luck for whatever you do in the future. I was like, blimey, hell.
And you got out alive. You got out alive with all your records as well.
Got out alive with all my records. Yeah,
Mate,
yeah.
That's unbelievable. But so, what was your kind of first big gig when you sort of think, where it was your almost club-based gig that you did, that you were like, this is my moment here?
Well, I used to live in South London, a place called Carshalton, and I did all of my friends' and families' parties and school discos. I did all of them for many years. So I was always the go-to guy to have parties. And then I moved to Brighton, South Coast, around 1983, 84. And then we used to do like Shabeen parties down there. We used to do these rundown houses that would fit maybe about 300 or 400 people. Charge like £1 to come in, and then another £1 for a red stripe. And then you get me and a couple of friends playing all night long. And it was just brilliant. And I made a name for myself in Brighton because of these parties. And that's why I knew if I was pulling people down from South London, they come to Brighton for the parties that I was doing down there, then I knew that there was something going on. So my biggest party that I had created at that time was a weekend in Brighton at a place called the Beach Hotel in Brighton, which you can still see today. So I hired the whole hotel, basically got people to pay for their room for their stay, and the money that they paid for would also entail you got the party as well, and it's very cheap. I think it was something like something like £30 for 2 days for staying at the hotel. It was very Faulty Towers, this hotel. And we had this little function room downstairs. And then we sold I'm thinking something like, for the weekend, maybe about 60 or 70, no, a bit more than that. It was 200 tickets of people that were staying at the hotel, and then people that come down for either Friday or Saturday. So we had around about 1,000 people over the 2 days. And that's where I knew that, I could pull people, put bums on seats, had something to say in what I was creating, and playing jazz, funk and soul music all night long. And it was amazing to see that happen in that hotel. Needless to say, we weren't invited to come back again.
Yeah, I can't imagine you would have done. I mean, listen, one night only before the whole hotel fell down around you, but I can imagine it was unbelievable. But what I love about you, though, is that you're actual like a grafter. Again, using the rugby analogy, people just going in and only knowing one thing. Do you think the reason you actually had to work, you set up your own business, you started from a completely different background, is why you have remained so humble and kind of appreciate what you have, because you've gone there, whereas opposed to someone just making one song and having to go out there and just publicise it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what's made me whole is my family, because they worked really hard when they came over from Barbados in the late 50s. My dad was a bus driver, my mum was a midwife, and on minimum wage, and I had 3 kids at the end of the day, which I had to look after. I come from a working class family, so to earn money, you had to work. I mean, I hated being on the dole. It wasn't me just dossing around, just doing nothing. And I've always kind of gone, well, if you want anything in life, you're going to have to work hard for it. And even, when I started, my name started getting banded around about 88, 89. I mean, people don't realise, in the early days of all those rave parties, even though there was 15,000 people or 20,000 people or whatever, the DJs were still only getting £100 to £150 maximum out of any of those events. So I would pick up £100 or £150 at one. I'll pick up another 100 at somewhere else. And I'm talking leaving my house in Brighton, driving to Doncaster, driving over then to Manchester, going down to Bedford, and then driving home for £500. But I had to do 3 parties for it and spend all day and all night doing that. And I did that for years. So, eventually, if you're putting bums on seats, you're going to get paid. It's like anything, yourself. If you're good at something, and then the bonus is that you get paid for it. So for me, the drive has always been about what I can basically do. What is my purpose in this planet? My purpose in this planet, in the end of the day, seems to be me going out and DJing to people who like my music. So when things became a lot more affluent, a lot more sorted out, a lot more understood at the end of the day, and then obviously, things become much more influence. But for me, it's all about work. I mean, even now in this pandemic, I think I'm more popular now and I'm working just as hard, even though I'm not moving around now, than I've ever been. Without travelling, actually. It's crazy. My days are full with all... I mean, today, right, I've been in a studio today for this company called Sensorium, and I've been kind of filmed as an avatar today. So eventually you're going to see me as this avatar that's going to come out and play in this enchanted forest or whatever's going to happen to me. But it's over 2 days. That's why I'm in a hotel now. This hotel is quite nice. But... tomorrow morning, I'll go and actually DJ as an avatar tomorrow, and once I've recorded all of that, and then it will come out eventually as something that people will be interested to see. But I'm working, I don't stop. I can't sit on my laurels at all. It's just not possible.
Is that for VR? Is that because there's obviously a new buzz of the kind of that virtual reality stuff, and also I can't remember what the word is, projection. So it feels like you'll be in the room with people if they wear certain things to see you as a 3D person DJing. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. But these guys have gone that much further than anything that you're thinking. So
holograms, or whatever is it?
Yeah, well, further than that, actually. Further than that, I tell you, it's just unbelievable. It's blowing my mind by what's going on at the moment. And what's really good about my avatar is that eventually I will be able to use my avatar in any application that it chooses, because I'm already been dissected millions of times by these cameras. I mean, the cameras that I was involved in today, there was 150 of them, all taking snaps from every single angle, including my crutch and backside. So yeah, it was quite an interesting day today. But my God, when you just have to kind of adapt at the end of the day by what we're doing. Well, that's what I'm doing, just adapting.
I love that. What I want to talk about is your musical taste. So, were you a big clubber as well as a DJ in performing? Because everything you talked about was the soul, funk, kind of reggae vibes early on. But now, obviously, we know you as, a top techno DJ. Yes, the vinyl sessions we're going to come on to later have shown you again in sort of your early light. Where did your musical tastes come from? How did you progress to where you are now?
Well, the thing was, I was always a clubber before I was a DJ. So I would be going to all of these kind of nightclubs. When I was 14 and 15 years old, I'd be going to London. I would be going to the 100 Club. I'd be going to a club called Crackers. I'd be going to all of these, when they were playing jazz, funk and soul music, I was there. And as a dancer, I was a very light on my feet back in the day. And I used to do the dancing battles with crews from all over the regions and win most of them as well. It's pretty good. And but the thing was, I needed a DJ that could give me something to dance to, and I found that there's a lot of DJs at the time didn't. Is the reason why I started to do it myself. So I know what it's like to be a clubber. I know what it's like to be out there. But at that time, in this late 70s into the 80s, there was so much great music that came out at that time. The funk, the jazz funk, the sound, the Latin jazz. I was just in all of it, and for me that was probably my time where I transitioned from a clubber to a DJ.
Because obviously you were in the the early stage of sort of the acid house and all the kind of warehouse vibe. Did you really fall in love with the kind of the romantic nature of the record shops? So you would go to these gigs here, queue outside. Did you have a relationship with a record shop manager? Were you in there for hours listening to music?
Yeah, I did all of that. I used to go to City Sounds in London. I used to go to Groove Records. I used to go to Zoom Records in Camden. And I just used to go to all these record shops. My Price Records in East Croydon, West Croydon. And I used to actually have a record shop of my own. I took over My Price Records in Brighton and around about 88, 89. And it's a Trafalgar Street. So you can imagine me having my own record shop to run. I had to pick up anything that was coming in first hand before anyone else would get them. And I would say that my record collection, the expanse of it grew because I've had that record shop. I've just had everything, bang, 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 bang. I just really enjoyed the fact that I was now the leader of having the records first.
Yeah, but that's a poacher turned gamekeeper, because everyone we talk to says they would go into a record shop, right, having listened to a DJ, right, wanted to find it, couldn't find it, gone into the record shop, and the guy's gone, oh, listen, we've only got 2 copies of that, or you can't find it. I love that you've bought the shop so you can get the records straight away, so there's no messing around. If Coxie wants a record, Coxie's getting a record.
Yeah, the thing is, you had to be first. You had to be the first one to play that record. I remember a record that came out in 88 by Renegade Soundwave called The Phantom. And I was at a warehouse party in Biggin Hill, and it was set up by Sunrise Entertainment at the moment. And Sunrise became one of the biggest rave companies at the time. And I heard Frankie Valentine play this record, The Phantom. And I'm like, what the hell is that? It missed me, I'm like, So I heard this record, and The Phantom just blew up, I was like, right, gonna run to the records, right, order The Phantom, get as many copies as you can, and as many as I could, as many went out like that. So that was like a lesson for me not to miss out on any of the ideas. I mean, you can't get everything, but also a trick that I used to do is stand by another DJ buying all these records, and I used to just kind of look at the shopkeeper and just give him and just point the finger, like, yep, that one. Yep, that one. So he'd be putting them underneath the counter. So they didn't know I was buying them. It's just like, I can hear it, yeah, I like that one. So it was all whatever tricks you needed to do.
I was say you'd have some DJs that would come in that you would know were DJs. So and they were like hot at what they were doing. So you would stand next to them, just hovering and just giving the old wink, like in the auction. And that's how you did it. Was it just to go, well, that's hot. If he likes that, then I'm going to like that. Really?
Yeah. So I didn't want to say, yeah, give me a copy as well. I'll just nod, give him on, and just point the finger, and he put it under the counter. And so when everyone's gone, and then we get, there you go, Coxie.
Mate, I love that. That's so shrewd. With your DJing, the momentum picked up really quite quickly for you, didn't it? So obviously, you were starting to do much more clubs. You'd obviously taken it seriously. When did you kind of feel like you were making it? And when was your first residency?
I never really took up any residencies. I mean, apart from being in Brighton, I used to do the clubs there for foreign students that were learning English. So they used to have a really cheap night on a Thursday night at a place called Toppers and Rumours, and the not the Zap Club. It used to be the Escape, and we used to get paid something like £40 and some beers to do these events because there was no real money in them. But it was just the fact that I used to go out and play like Peter Gabriel, Sledgehammer, the Final Countdown, and then I'll play some sort of techno record in there. So that's how I always kept, my hands in the clubs and kept working. But eventually I used to do Sunday nights, which was my own night at all those clubs. And people used to come in their droves because I was playing at those clubs. And then eventually my first true residency was at the Zap Club in Brighton. So I kind of moved away from South London to create my new career from South London to the South Coast. And basically made my name on the South Coast between 88, 89, 90. And then 1991, then I moved up to a place called Horsham. And that's where I started to move up and down the country from that point.
Did you know this podcast is powered by Acast? Acast is the home of podcasting. For creators looking for freedom to grow their listeners and make money too. And creative brands looking for smart ways to advertise. Podcasters and advertisers in the know Acast. It's time you did too. Visit acast.com to find out more. Acast, for the stories.
When did you feel there was a moment when you were like, do you know what? I'm actually doing all right here in this DJ lark. I know you said obviously continuously the theme and what you said is you filled up venues, people were coming to see you, but there must have been sort of one moment when you were like, do you know what? I think this could be a real starter for me.
Yeah, I think probably 1988 when I was playing at a party called Midsummer's Night Dream. And I think a lot of people remember that this rave party at the particular moment in time where I first started to play free turntables. And the thing about me playing free turntables, I was always at home perfecting the idea of free turntables. But I never really took it out until one day I thought, right, I'm going on after all these amazing DJs have played at 10:30 in the morning, because that's the time they put me on, and I'm going to get 2 copies of Little Louis French Kiss and 1 copy of Doug Lazy's Let It Roll a cappella, and I'm going to mix these 3 records together live, like no one's ever heard. So they've heard the records, but they haven't heard them mixed like that. So when everyone was kind of like just, the sun's up and everyone's kind of dancing to some tunes, I comes on. So people were like, I don't know, some guy called Carl Cox. But when I played those records, the whole place lifted. All the promoters that were there were dancing behind me and all going, who's this guy? Who's this DJ? And my girlfriend at the time, Maxine Bradshaw, she had the cards out. She said, that's Carl Cox, that is. The free deck wizard. Bang, 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 bang. And from that moment on, I never looked back.
I love that. I saw your interview with Nick Fanciulli, who's obviously a legend and I know a very good friend of yours. And he was saying, and you described yourself in there as the 3-deck wizard. And I obviously didn't know what the reference point was, but now I know. Now I know that it was all that time ago, mixing that, and that's how you started. And that was, did that become a trademark?
Yep, 100%, because all the promoters then, all the rave promoters at that time, they booked Carl Cox a 3-deck wizard. So they get 3 decks for me. And what was kind of like, no pressure or pressure, is that a lot of people could at that time go right up front to the DJ, literally lean on the front of the thing and then watch you play. So I always had these like doubters or people like, what's this all about, the 3-deck wizard? And I'll be like, just mixing up a fuss, bang, 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 3 decks, And then, when the people got their arms folded, looking at me going, all right, yeah, impress me. And then they see them be impressed and like, it's pretty good. It would have been pretty good. I'd like to see you try it, mate. You know what I mean? With, the needles jumping, beer being spilt, the decks, wobbling and all sorts of things going on. But I still managed to cut through it. But I loved it because it was challenging. I was being, kind of for myself, I wanted to prove my worth. At the end of the day, if you're going to book me, then I'm going to give you this more than any other DJ. And that's how I did it. I was consistently just doing that all of the time. And so that's where the name came from.
Talk to me about your relationship with Ibiza. Did you go there before you were a DJ?
Yeah, I did. I used to get these magazines called DJ Internationals. And what they used to do, DJ International, was go around all these different places around the world and then basically highlight all the installations in clubs. And they highlighted Ibiza with all these clubs, like Coup, which is now Privilege, Star Club, which is now Eden, and all these amazing clubs with the installations, lasers, sound system. I'm like, wow, it's all in one island. I have to go. So to hear the sound and see the lasers and everything. Now, when I first went to Ibiza, which was I think like 86, the music they were playing in these clubs were rubbish. It's awful, the Euro trash. I'm like, this is terrible, But the installations were fantastic. But I loved the island. I fell in love with the island, and I always felt to myself that I'm going to come back to this island every year, which I had done until last year. I couldn't go. So I've been every year since 1985.
And the kind of music you're playing there, so the locals in Ibiza playing Euro crap, and you were playing, acid house, rave, bit of techno. What was the kind of music you were putting out there?
Yeah, well, I always played the conditions. So if I was playing Pasha, it would be house music. It'd be subliminal records. It'd be tribal. It'd be gospel house. That's what I played at Privilege, because they're older, a bit more sophisticated. But if I played in San Antonio, it was rave music, man. It was just going off down there, full of English. Just go, oh, someone like Coxie, Shannon, play the Prodigy, come on, play it. And I played the Prodigy, your love. It was just fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And then if I was playing Coup, Privilege, which I had done a few times, I kind of calmed that rave down and just kind of played more progressive, more island Balearic style. I just played the conditions, at the end of the day. I never really gave myself any real sound. I just wanted to complement all the clubs that were on the island. But then I had this fantastic opportunity to represent myself and my sound. So I, took on the realm of being a resident at Space Club on a Tuesday. But actually the first night was on 2001 on a Thursday, the first year. And we were going up against Cream at the time that were playing at Amnesia. So I didn't really want to do that. So we changed from Thursdays to Tuesdays and start from zero. But that was in the discotheque, not outside on the terrace, which Space became known for, because I was right there actually creating the terrace from day one, where I did a Radio 1 after party for them, and then turned that terrace into the club that happened eventually, that it was very well known for. So I kind of was very embedded in the success of that club right from the beginning. Because
it's interesting that you talk about your sound and stuff, because now everybody, the people I always talk to, in the DJ world, you're known for your sound. That also, sometimes some people don't take that into account, that you're playing to the crowd in front of you, and you can't just play. If you turn up and nobody gives a shit about techno, you can't just go out and play techno. You've got to play to the crowd to get them going. It's interesting that you originally, again, were being a selector, playing what was in front of you instead of having a dedicated sound. Now, obviously taking the vinyl sessions out, when people book you, they know what the Carl Cox vibe is going to be. It's just very interesting that you sort of found that, and then when you got your residency, that's when you locked into what we know as Carl Cox. Yeah, I think people really needed to understand, my sound initially, and I've always loved drum and bass. I always loved the rave sound, but it wasn't really my true sound. My true sound has always been about the future of music with a kick drum, and that future of music with a kick drum was techno music, and that's what I've always followed. And then I'm obviously very well known for that sound. I mean, it got to a place where I always played drum and bass or breaks, but I always put a kick drum on the back of it. So it was called stomp music, Coxie stomp music. So you got all these breaks. So all the guys that was at the drum and bass would be like, yeah, go on, Coxie. But as soon as I put a kick drum on it, they'd just stand there and just sit it. I'd be like, you guys suck. Come on, man. Take the journey, and they just wouldn't do it. It's either drum and bass or it's techno. Never the two should twain. But I got to a point where I with the drum and bass sound, which I love,
that I wasn't professional at it. Well, I was professional, but I wasn't breathing it. And other DJs were, like Fabio and Groove Rider, they'd have about 50 acetates, and I'll have about 2. so my 2 exclusives wasn't long enough for a set. So I just said, you know what, boys, you do what you're going to do, and I'm going to leave that scene, and I'm going to continue my quest for techno and house music, of which then I didn't look back at all at any point when I decided to do that.
With Space, it originally used to be an after hours club, wasn't it? It used to start at sort of 7 in the morning, and what I was reading was that you actually went there as a 7 in the morning guy just to dance and party, didn't you? And was that some of the opening stuff you were doing there as well, playing those after hour bits? Yeah,
because the thing was, I mean, I just went there to party and have a great time. I just loved the idea that you was at Space, you're on the terrace, and everyone else back in the UK were at work. And I would just be like, we're having a great time, man. It was just epic, And then there was Sundays at Space, which was amazing thing to go to at that time. So I didn't need to really work there, but it got to a point where I was always asked to play, and then I used to play just house music on the terrace, the house music vibe. If you hear any of my sets on the terrace, it was always house music. But I had nowhere to unleash my techno sound. So I was basically given the opportunity to do that by going inside the discotheque. I did have a few, I would say, requests about doing that because, first and foremost, the sound sucked. It was just horrible, screechy. The sound of top end was like no bass. So I said, you got to change the sound. I said, you got to change the DJ booth because it was by the toilets and the toilets stank. So I said, clean the toilets and move the DJ booth, to where it ended up in the end. And I thought maybe those demands would be going to be a bit too much for them, and they wouldn't do it. So the next year, they said, "Hey, Carl, we made a few changes." I said, "Oh, okay, yeah." We changed the DJ booth, we cleaned the toilets, and we got a function one sound system. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I better take up your offer as a resident then."
Right, I love that because actually, funny enough, now where obviously the Space used to be is high, and they've now got the DJ booths in the toilets, so it's gone round full circle. The wild room is now the wild corner is now actually in the toilets. Who knew that you could have some of the best parties ever in the bogs?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's I still find it a very weird thing to do, but they wasn't the first ones to do it. Norman Cook used to play the toilets up in Privilege, back in the day from when they would do Manny Mission, and it was, I can't see you're going for a piss, and there's a DJ there with loads of people going, just having a really great time, and women as well. So I found it very difficult to do that.
It is a bit odd, but I've had some of the best nights I've ever had in there because I wandered in for a piss, and 3 hours later I'm still in there. It's always a bit shocking, but just with the Space stuff. So then, how did it? So you obviously accepted the offer to go and do it, and then how did it build to what we were in? Because you said obviously 20 years in total, but 15 years you were there, and I've got an embarrassing story because I want to hear about your sort of adventure and some of the stories about that, and how you knew it had grown into something. But I actually, when I was about 21, was the first time that I'd been to Ibiza. I'd never been, and I was just starting to get into house music. I'd always had an eclectic mix, and I went to Space. And my then partner got me into Space, and you were playing that night, and I just didn't. I was on the dance floor, and I remember looking over and seeing you and your energy and everything else that, and I was like, fucking hell, who's that guy there? He is absolutely blowing the doors off. Anyway, I was out my tree, having the time of my life, wasn't really paying attention. It was only when I got home and was trying to find out who you. I was like, oh my god, that was Carl Cox. Didn't think any more about it, and I was the most embarrassed that I actually got to see Carl Cox at Space before I became a super fan. I wasn't really paying attention, but when I looked over, I was like, that guy is absolutely killing it, and I'm ashamed to say it because if I'd been an absolute keno now, I probably would have been arms folded, watching. Go on, show me the 3-deck wizard. No, because what I was going to ask you is almost like I'm going to talk to you about the closing because I interviewed Nick, and obviously that's regarded as the seminal moment. But I wanted to ask you, really, were there any other performances where you had gone this progression? You'd gone from weddings to DJing. You'd made your name on the on the coast. You'd come there. You'd come to Ibiza. You'd enjoyed it as a clubber. Were there moments where you sat in that club and seen what you created and just gone, this is unbelievable? You're just looking out going, I don't think life can get much better than this.
Yeah, I think once we got into year 5 of being having a resident, I normally when you do any of these stuff, you kind of go, we've had a good time. We've had 5 years of this. This is great. And then you think, okay, well, people are not going to come and they're going to be bored. They're going to move on to somewhere else. It never happened at Space. I mean, I gave myself 5 years. I thought, this is it. We went into year 6 and it was much better than year 5. And then it went into year 7, year 8, year 9. 10 years of Space. I'm like, how the hell did we get 10 years of Space? This is a Tuesday night club. We're up against everybody around the island. We had a really great team, promotional team, fantastic. But we also had a really great DJ selection. Curated the music. The club was behind us. Every Tuesday was a blinder. The sound was better every year. The place was better every year. It was just, and then we were like a freight train every Tuesday. And then I thought, okay, well, we've been 10 years and, maybe year 11 to go down, and that'd be year 11 just superseded year 10. And then we went in 10, 11, in year 12 was even better, 13, 14. I'm like, blimey, we're on a real plateau here. And every year, Space was getting awarded, from all over the world as the club to go to. So they held all these awards. Everything. Yeah, Space the winner for this year, Space the winner for that year, Space the winner. It was just completely madness. And then when we were told, that in 2016 that Pepe wasn't going to get his lease renewed, based on what had happened, that was it. And Pepe didn't want to pursue it any further because he was 80 years old. So, and he's had a great time. And it was going to change hands, and the legacy of Space was going to change.
Before we go into the closing, how much were you involved in the club? So obviously your presence and the Tuesday nights and how you killed it on the behind the decks brought people in. But were you part of choosing the other DJs? Were you given that approval? How much by the end was it Carl Cox directing stuff as well as performing?
I was involved in how it looked, how it sounded, and how it got curated. And that was over all rooms, because there was obviously more than one room. I just wanted each room to be defined. We wanted you to hear breaks in one room. I wanted to hear hard techno in another room. I wanted to hear trip hop in another room. And so wherever you walked around, Mr. Doris was one of my favorite DJs there. He just played this great music, from his mind's eye. Still one of the best DJs I've ever heard. But you go all the way up the top where the chill room is, and Mr. Doris to be playing. And you could just be there all night. It was just bloody awesome. But yeah, I had, between myself and another lady called Lynn Cosgrave, who was running a company called Safe House, that was our night. And then basically we used to work with Pepe on our concepts every year and our DJs every year. I remember when we booked a drum and bass night, we had LTJ Bookham down with MC Dynamite for the first time. And then Pepe comes into his newly made covered terrace, and he's like, "Oh, Carl, what is this racket? Oh, I don't like it. It's too fast. What is this noise? Please don't bring it back. Please, no." We said, "Yeah, but this is the sound of London. This is, it's going to bring different people in." And he freaked out, Pepe. He didn't speak to us for about 2 weeks after that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, he hated it. He hated drum and bass. But the thing is, the people loved it. Or the people that came in to hear that sound had never been to Space before. So that's what you do. You introduce a space to them, and an ideal of that you can enjoy this, even if you're thinking maybe it may not be for you. But if you bring this kind of mountain to Mohammed, and then they come into it, they go, wow, and then they go and experience another room. I think one of the most amazing nights I think I've had there, which stood out, was the main room, the discotheque, was me and Fatboy Slim, Norman Cook, and it was rammed, and he's playing his music. I Want to Praise You, and this is the first time we really had a lot of his crew in there, his fans, as well as my fans in there. And then in the other room, I had DJ Markey playing, and it was packed. Like you just couldn't get one more person in there. It was ridiculous. So to hear these two rooms really going off and the sound being so defined, it really worked. There's no point of having the same sound in one room as you're going to go into another room, the same sound. There was no point of doing that. So we had Giles Peterson, Laurent Garnier. We had all sorts of different styles of people playing. Pendulum one night in there doing their stuff. It was just awesome. I was so fortunate to be able to have something that I could define what I would like to have in the club. this was that was definitely my moment for sure.
I think you've got many more moments to come, Carl. To be honest with you, I think to create something like that, and also to have the understanding that people were going to walk from one room, because that's the beauty of a club like that, is you're on a vibe, you're coming in, maybe it's not clicking, you just go for a beer or you go for a pit, and you hear something else, and you'll suddenly find out you like music that you didn't know you liked. And because people, especially when it comes to music and art, people think they know what they like and are quite entrenched and like sometimes too cool. They're like, I'm not into that. I'm not into that. It's funny when you're steaming at 2 a.m, how you might discover something you didn't know, and that's like that's how certain things with music I had. I was like, I'm not into this, I'm not into that. Go somewhere, and that's when my love of techno came. Like I started when I was into my first music, going to Tomorrowland. I used to see you at the Carl Cox stage, and but I started into EDM, like awfully into EDM, because that was my first sort of thing into it. Now I have much. Now I'm really into my techno, and obviously kind of defected style house that I play for my radio show with sort of techno, and it's amazing how your taste changed. And for you to be a tastemaker yourself and to put that together is pretty special. I want to talk to you a bit about the closing party. So I've heard it from Nick's version. Obviously, you. I remember that you sort of, according to him, you called him up and obviously gave him the opportunity to come and DJ, and he was playing there and did a number of years with you. And on that closing party night, he was obviously supposed to do was it 2 hours, then you were going to finish off with 4 hours, or was it 2 hours, 2 hours? I can't remember.
No, it was 2 hours. It's two and two. I had already, the thing is about the actual closing, my own night, the Revolution night, 2 weeks before the actual closing, it's where I made my mark, my 10-hour set. Half of it was going to be vinyl, sound, and the other half was digital, whether it's Tractor, USB music. Because a lot of people in the last 10 years of being in space had never seen me spin a vinyl in that club. So it was to give people the opportunity to really feel the club from its essence. And I hadn't played vinyl for like 20 years. It's only 4 hours, something stupid. And so it was kind of like, oh my God, I've got to put a needle on the record again at space. I'm like, oh, how do I do that? So I was very tentative by when I started playing the vinyl back in that club again. But it was also very endearing, because some of those records on vinyl you can't find on trackitdown.com or Beatport or any of these download sites. It's on vinyl, and it stays on vinyl in some ways. Your collection or your selections is right there, the embodiment of the music. So a lot of people, when they heard me playing the vinyl set for the first 5 hours, they're like, where's this music come from? It sounded brand new to a lot of people, and that was just fantastic. I mean, the thing was, I thought, right, I'm going to just send this off with a complete bang, and I'm going to go on for the beginning, which was about 10:30, and I'm going to close it out at 8 o'clock. So can you imagine that I normally go on at 3 o'clock in at night, where it's like, okay, you got your guest DJs and they're great and everyone's having a great time. Then I come on and I go right from 3 until 8. It's on, But I went on at 10 o'clock in the evening, so I had to just kind of just keep it down, because every record, everyone's like, ah! But I was playing like 118 BPM, 120. So just chugging along, playing this record, playing that record, all on vinyl. And I really wanted to let rip round about 11, like, yeah, let's go. And I just didn't do it, just holding it down. Place is packed. By 11, it's chocker. It was just, and lights were down. Just keep the lights down. Don't go mad, and just take this night, And then 11 o'clock came, 12 o'clock. Went up another BPM. 118, 119. People could feel it. Woo! 119 BPM. Yeah, okay. We're gonna get there. And I just kept kind of feeding it. 120, 122. Now we're getting to like 1 o'clock. 125, 126. Now the place is moving, and I'm still playing vinyl. And so when it became around about 3 o'clock, I'm up to about 128 BPM, where I'll start going into tech house, techno. So I'll come on, so I'll go, right, crescendo, 3 o'clock, bang, lights, smoke, 3 o'clock's on. And I'll just like ripping it, right, now onto digital. Bang, this was going on, that's going on, this track, that track. Now it was all the records that people know me for at this club over the last 5 years. That hit record, bang, this one, that one, this one, that one. It was like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Nobody's going home. The place is chocker. And then I played all the way through until 8 o'clock, and then I played my last record. I think it was like Promised Land or something. Everyone's in tears, and I was just like, this just doesn't get any better than that. And that was my own closing night party. So I had to go and do that all over again in 2 weeks. So it was nice to be able to share the love of the essence of the closing with Nick, because Pepe loved Nick as well, and he knew how to play that club very, very well. And me and Nick always played very, very well together. I mean, of course, Nick wanted to make sure that I totally finished it off, because he was there right with me. But I had already played the car park first, so I played the car park from 12 till 2, and then finished that off. And then I went back to the villa, slept for like 3 hours, came back, and then went on at 8 till 12. And then Nick was playing, then I would play, then Nick would play. And that moment was just absolutely phenomenal. And I knew what my last record was going to be, which was Angie Stone, which I Didn't Miss You When You're Gone. And I just knew that it would just bring on the tears. And I'm also, can you imagine how many people asked me what my last record at Space was going to be? Can you imagine how many people? And the people were like, yeah, he's going to play Strings of Life. He's going to play this. He's going to do that. And I knew I'd throw everybody because nobody was thinking about Angie Stone. Now, some people didn't kind of get it, but most people thought, what an amazing tune, because in years to come, it'll be down on, Trivial Pursuit or something. What was Carl Cox's last record played at Space?
But you edited it, didn't you? You made your very own edit of the Angie Stone one. You put a kick and a couple of bits.
Right. Well, I'm so glad that you said that, because also people thought it was someone else's mix that I had played. Nobody thought that I actually did my own re-edit version of that track. So it's so unique. If you can put as many mixes up you like against my mix, you won't find my mix. It's my mix. I physically sat there and reproduced that track and kind of reworked it just to give it that bit more chunk and that filter and a bit more kick, hi-hat, clap. I didn't change the song in any way, shape or form. I time stretched it. So the embodiment of the song was still there. But, as soon as that... And do you know how I came about playing that record? I was in a restaurant in Ibiza, and I can't remember what the restaurant was called. And one night, I was there for a friend's birthday party, and the DJ played it. And I was like, that's the tune for the closing party. This is the record. And people looking at me going, huh? What are you talking about, Coxie? Angie Stone? Oh, there's soul and R&B. I said, no. It is soul and R&B, but the way how I'm going to mix it, it's just going to be a track which is memorable based on that you've never heard me play this at Space at all until the very last moment. And that's the record I'm going to finish off with. If I played any other record, Prodigy, Your Love, or anything like that, it would have been too easy. That's totally too easy. Strings of Life, too easy. Promised Land, too easy. All of it, name anything you like. Angie Stone, that was poured out of the heavens, that track. It was, and it came to me. I didn't go looking for it. And I stick by it. Any time you hear that record, people go, my God, Space. That's...
Yeah, I actually went there I actually snuck out there a couple of times to when we were allowed to go out there, and actually, stayed in the hotel. And I think, Leslie and Charlie as well over there, and we got to see them. And I actually met Javier, the main man from Mambo's, which was incredible to sort of go there. And I saw a couple of things, but obviously it was very, very different. I love the island because of how beautiful it is, and the food, and that tourism angle, as well as kind of clubbing. But I wanted to ask you about the crowds. Now, obviously, I know crowds are your bread and butter, so I'm not expecting you to put the knife in. But from where you started and the way crowds react to where they are now, do you think this VIP culture that we've got ourselves into, especially in Ibiza now, will need to change? Would you change it? Because obviously everyone comes now with the mobile phones out and this kind of thing, as opposed to down dirty and raw, there to enjoy the music, as opposed to be seen to be there.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult now because everyone's has been so used to VIP culture over the last 5 years. They're quite happy to buy a ticket, but also buy a table. It seems to be the way of clubbing in some ways. I go to a VIP table, and I'm squashed on this table with like a bunch of other people who are just trying to steal your drinks. And then the glasses going everywhere, and when your shoes and your clothes, Jesus, and all the action is actually on the floor or around the floor on the balcony or something. The true feel of clubbers is there, and I remember being at Space, and then one on the right hand side of me in the VIP area that Space created was like these Russian guys, and funny enough, about 2 or 3 of them were into it, sweating, enjoying the music, just like they've got their space, they're enjoying it, and they had all their girlfriends there. And they were just on the phone, like with the back turned to me, just on their phone, like, doing some sort of like Snapchat or something. And I was just like completely bored, you know what I mean? It's like, this was the VIP. So when people are looking into that, when they see people that are not even into it, it takes a little bit of something of the, I mean, why aren't they engaging? It's because they've been asked to be there for just because they can. And that's unfortunately with some VIPs, they just want to just look over the seats and just, I'm here, but and you got your drinks and all that sort of stuff. I've always gone out to a club, gone through the door, and got onto the dance floor. That's where I need to be. That's where I want to be. And I'm not going to text or phone anyone if they're not here. They're not here. You know what I mean?
I know. It's madness. Obviously, I know we've been talking for a little while, so I won't keep you too much longer. But I just wanted to talk about, how you've remained kind of at the top of your game. Whether it's because you just have the passion, because it looks like that behind the decks. Whether it's because you've just, you're so into your music that you spot things coming before they are. Why do you think you've managed to stay, even this pandemic, more relevant than ever?
I think in some ways I've always been one step ahead. I do have a really good team around me, management team, social media team. All the time I've been working with these guys and girls for the longest time. And obviously they've had to adapt as well because there's no touring, there's no clubs to go to. So it's all about the social media aspect of where we are right now. The amount of people that I have on my Facebook at the moment is I think something like 2.7 million people at the moment, and that's all genuine. There's not that number has been built up over the years of me being involved in the social media, and they are genuinely loyal fans. So they're there for me the whole time. Not that I get to 2.7 million. I would love to put out an album and have £1 from each person buy the album. And that would be like, my first album made 2.7 million. I'd be like, fantastic. Wait till the next album, It just doesn't work like that at all, as you know. But they're there because they want to be there. They kind of... I get more likes. Just the other day, I thought, right, I'll be doing my walks and I'll get around. I'm not a sportsman in any way, shape or form. But I try to do something in the end of the day. I can't just sit around and do anything. So I decided... And my friends, they said, okay, let's go and do like a 5K walk. So I did a 5K walk. I did it, mapped my walk, then the time I did it in and everything. And then I put a picture of me sweating and I put it up on my Facebook. And it went wild. It just went everywhere. Well done, Coxie, this, that, and that, bang, bang, bang. It's amazing that you're doing this. And the brrr, 1,000 people, 2,000, 6,000 comments and likes. Right? I put out my latest album. It's like, Tumbleweed. Tumbleweed. I'm just like, but you're here for the music and everything else. Like, no, we just want to see how many sausages you can eat or what plants you can make. It's just unbelievable. But I think because of I expose other things of my aspects of my life, it's what's given me my popularity because it's made me more closer to people than me being an artist. And you are the public buying into the artist.
The reason I got into DJing while I was still playing was I found it was the nearest thing to replicating going out on the fields to play, because I'd first of all, I'm a bit of an attention whore and I love music. So I'd see someone like yourself at the front of a gig and I'd be like, everyone's attention's on him. He's playing music that he wants, that the crowd wants, that you're getting a reaction both. And you know how good music is when it makes you feel amazing. You can't stop moving. Not only are you mixing in, you've got the technical skill of trying to do that. I love technology. And that's why I fell in love with it. Do you still Can you put into words kind of the emotions you have, say at some of your bigger gigs or smaller gigs, what you actually feel when you're playing? Is it like hairs on the back of your neck? Do you have that vibe? Do you think, if I died now, this is the best thing ever? Because that's kind of what I feel. But I've always wanted to know, with someone like yourself who's doing it for so long, what you sort of feel emotionally.
Well, the thing is, I when I'm playing, I exude a certain amount of energy. I mean, my step program is ridiculous. Because I just step, just into it. I just don't stop. And I've always been like that without thinking about it. I always say to people, if I'm not sweating, I'm not working. Because I'm building up this energy within me, and I exude it every time I play that space, and I get to the end after I played for 5 hours straight. I'm fucking knackered. I'm like, I sit down, I'm in the office, I go, oh. A drink, a beer. I get that beer, done. Towel. I don't think about the energy that I give out. But when you see that set before I get to the office, I'm absolutely on this zone of freight train, just coming at you all the time. It's not over until it's over, and I find myself that I get more and more energy near the end of my set. Some DJs kind of get like, oh, I don't know what record to play. Yeah, I'm just throwing things in now. I can't wait for it to finish. And I'm like the other way. You know what I mean? I'm like, ugh, like this. For me, it energizes me. Absolutely energizes me. That's why sometimes with the longest sets, I don't even realize that I'm going to be playing 8 or 9 hours. It doesn't. To me, it's a long time. It is a long time if you think about that. But when you're in it, it kind of goes like this. I'm into hour 5, hour 6, hour 7, hour 8, hour 9, like, and then that's it. Okay, then the police come or the management go, right, Coxie, that's it. Or they switch the power off on me, which has happened many, many times. Really? I'm like, woohoo! And, it's way past, the time they're supposed to finish. I go, right, the only way to finish this party is kapow.
I love that. Are you aware that you've cornered the market on the coolest phrases to say when you're DJing? So, like, oh yes, Carl Cox one time, all those things. That for the rest of us, like, I'm obviously a posh white middle class guy. I'm not very cool. Like, I'm never going to be cool. I'd never be able to talk to Alan Fitzpatrick about it. So I'd never break into the techno scene because they'd see me coming. They'd be like, whoa, you're not allowed in the club here. But I obviously sometimes, I remember talking to Simon Dunmore about it, when I do some of the uni gigs and things, obviously they want to get you on the mic because they're not booking me to be a DJ, they're booking me to be James Haskell, whoever that is. But I obviously go on there, I was like, and I'm like, hello, everybody having a good night. and then I look at you and you're like, oh yes, so yeah. I'm like, how's he got? You've literally nicked every good phrase and left the rest of us with nothing. Like, I'm like, yeah, because then if you do EDM, you put your motherfucking hands up. That's just too EDM. So I just want you to know that you've cornered the market on that.
Well, the thing is about oh yes is because of my roots of being a mobile DJ and everything. I've always connected with people on the mic, but I didn't want to waffle on the mic. That was the thing about it. It was just short and sharp and direct. So at the time, there was a lot of DJs not saying anything. They were connected with the music, but not personally connected with the people. And the mic's here to be used in one way or another. Not everyone can use a mic in some ways because they just don't feel confident in it, and it's just not them. And I get it. You'll never hear Dixon go, "My name's Dixon." Oh yes. It just wouldn't happen. It just forget about it. And nobody's gonna want to hear him. Just play the music. But for me to just step in a little bit more to the people and to find out how they feel for one moment in your life, and you're all here. So when I get on that mic, I want to know you're having a good time. Yes, I want to see if they connect with me in the sense of me being a human speaking to another human outside of all this technology. So when it comes to me going, oh yes, after I've asked them if they had a good time, whatever. It's timing, and I utilised oh yes as if it's comedy timing, because that punchline is where the action is. It's where that downbeat is, bang, where everyone's laughing. Yes,
that's what I mean. So the thing is, I've tried to come up with my own phrase, and I've just all I come up with. Lovely stuff. That's all I've got. I was thinking to myself, what can I do? He's done yes, fantastic. Everyone have a good time. Lovely stuff. And then it's not going down well, Carl. I don't think I'm coming for you. So if you're bored in lockdown, and you want to think of a cool phrase that we can copyright for James Haskell, the mobile DJ, then let me know. But it is again. I think. So I've seen DJs recently. I won't name a couple of them. I saw some pretty big names, and I see you DJ, and as I said, the energy, the words. I see these other DJs who are hidden behind their laptops, who don't interact, and it's human nature. If the DJ looks like they're having the time of life, and you want to dance, if some bloke's like this glued behind a laptop doing nothing and just being too cool for school, I just think it loses people. It doesn't matter how good the music is. You want to know that you're having a great time because, and also the crowd don't know that it's your sixth gig, that you've been on a plane, that you've had 1 hour's sleep. They're not interested in that. It's like when you play rugby. If you try and play a rugby game ill or injured, nobody knows that you've got those things. If you play shit, everyone just says you're shit. And you can't put your hand up at the end and go, yeah, well, you don't understand. I had an argument with my wife and my ankle was really sore and I felt a bit sick. It's like, it doesn't work like that.
No, and that's the thing. I've played, some events. Well, I've been on death's door, runny nose, sneezing, headaches, tired, just over it, and I push through, to get to the other end, and I'll just leave the club, get back to the hotel, and just try and rest up as much as I can, because I don't want anyone to cry for me, Argentina. But the thing is, I don't like letting anyone down either, or the punters down. If they waited 5 months or 6 months for me to perform, and I go, oh, I've got a cold, I can't turn up, I'm sorry, they don't care. It's like, get your ass there. I remember when I was supposed to be playing in Vienna or something, and then we had the volcano with the ash, turn up and no planes were flying or anything over anywhere. Anyway, so, I said, sorry guys, put a post out. I'm stuck here in London. I can't get over to you because of the ash. We'll reschedule and I'll get back to you at some point. The amount of shit I got was like, get on a train, get a taxi over, get on one of the private planes. You can't let us down like this. I'm not letting you down. That's what's happened. But they just don't get it. Even that happened, and they just still don't understand. I would be there if I could, but the ash is not allowing the planes to fly, and if they did, they will crash because the ash goes into the motors, it seizes them up, and they will plunge to the earth. And nobody wants that. Well, get on a train then. Right, okay. So you want me to get on a train now to get to Vienna or wherever it was? It's going to take hours to get there. I'm going to miss the event. It's not going to happen. So I just suck it up. I really do suck it up most of the time. Some people look at me and go, "You look like death," and I say, "Oh, I feel like death." Oh, yes, it's like try and hide it. Sometimes I've got like a towel and I go like this. It's like green, fucking mucus green, and I'm thinking, "Oh, I am really ill." And I'm going to get back. Oh, champagne. Keep going.
How do you survive the or how have you survived the DJ lifestyle and not caught up, not gone off, because so many of your sort of contemporaries and people like that, they lose themselves to it, because what people forget is, and I was talking this to Alan and I've seen it firsthand, is that, the pressure you put yourselves on, and I'd love to hear kind of what your like craziest schedule would be when you've tried to do like 7 shows in a weekend. But what they forget is that you haven't seen one of your other DJ mates. So every time you walk into a room, Coxie, you're like coming down, they're going up, and you can't just go. Every day is like a party day. Tell me about your busiest schedule and also how you've avoided not falling apart during that period of time.
Yeah, most of the time, what I try and set out before I go anywhere to try and rest up as much as humanly possible, because the thing is, if I was on drugs, I wouldn't be where I am today. If I needed drugs to do what I'm doing, I would have died years ago. It's just not possible to do the two things in a professional manner. I've always seen myself as a professional and has a responsibility as an artist to perform. If I'm off my nut, even if I'm drunk or whatever, it's irresponsible to be in that position because people rely on you to give them the best time possible. they've taken their time and energy to be there, to pay for you to be there. The least you can do is be copious mentors. So round about, I would say 2001, 2002, when I took on the residency, all of that went away from me. It was all about looking after myself. I'm not the fittest man on planet Earth. I don't go cycling for 50 Ks or I don't go hiking and all that sort of stuff. I do keep myself in good trim. I don't eat fast foods. I do eat really well. I try to eat as much as I need to eat when I'm DJing, when I'm playing out. I try not to eat rubbish food at night. I do generally try and look after myself. As big as I am, I always feel that I have enough energy to continue to do what I do. And I try not to take on everything. If I know that I can't do 3 parties in a weekend, and I won't do 3 parties. I'll do 2 great parties, and that's it, leave it, walk away. But the thing is, it's really hard to just drink water, because everyone's like, champagne, bang, vodka, no problem, brew brandy, gin and tonic, have this, here's another beer, here's a chipito, here's a tequila shots, food. Sometimes by the end of it, you think to yourself, how the hell did I have all these drinks and still be copious mentors in some way? Well, one of the reasons is between drinks you have water. If you don't do that, by the end of it, you just want to die, because you've mixed all your drinks and you're just like, oh, but that's at the end of your set. So I try to just stay on one drink. If I'm going to have an alcoholic drink, I will stay on the beers. Or don't do the beers, champagne. I don't really like champagne that much. Couple of glasses, bit of ching with a few people, and then that's it, I'm over it. I really enjoy gin and tonic at the moment. This is something for me. I'll drink up to a point, stop drinking, and drink water. Water is the key to all of it. The biggest problem about having water is that when you're DJing, you want to go for a piss most of the time. So you don't really want to keep drinking water either. So there's a balance between this ideal to keep going. As soon as you get on the drugs, or as soon as you get on the alcohol, these two things are like a car crash for any artist. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't go well for anyone that's getting into that kind of party mode. It really encroaches on your creativity, where your head's at. People can see it. If you think about what happened with Norman Cook, he decided to check himself in. It's common knowledge. He was drinking way too much, partying way too hard. It was encroaching on his family. And eventually, he knew that his sets were damaging as well, and his career was being damaged. So to the point, he just said, "No, enough's enough." And now, even still today, teetotal, absolute teetotal. But it was concerning. He needed some sort of intervention, based on what was going on around him. So to see him go through the tunnel of all of that was really inspiring, because he had done it because he knew that it was important for him. So I think he was definitely not the poster boy of how not to encroach on your lifestyle based on the things that you should be saying no to if you want to have a career.
I think, listen, this has probably been the most interesting kind of couple of hours we've had so far on this podcast, and obviously, Carl, you've had an incredible life, and what you've achieved is amazing. I've got lots more questions, but I'm going to hit you up offline, because they're all about like set preparation and stuff. And we'll leave that for another time. I think people will want to get your autobiography, because it's been so fascinating. I've got two real questions for you to finish, really, and they're sort of short answers. Really, is there anything left you haven't done that you're desperate to do?
No.
Well, thanks so much, Carl Cox, ladies and gentlemen. That's that. No, there's nothing. There's no one you haven't gone back to back with. There's no venue you haven't played.
I think my expectations on my life have so over exceeded itself. I've met some of the most amazing people, done some of the most amazing things, been to so many amazing places. To be able to play Berlin Love Parade at 1.8 million people, like not just once, 3 times. It's just you just cannot comprehend that, James, when you're there and everyone's listening to every single track, all on vinyl too. That's like the highest of heights right there. I think I've really done more than I really expected, and even even my drag racing efforts, it's phenomenal. Not many people still know about my drag racing efforts, but it's phenomenal. I've actually self-titled myself as the fastest DJ in the world. because there's no other DJ that hurtles himself in a quarter mile at nearly 250 miles an hour from a standing start. You know, I pull those chutes and go, I'm alive! You know, it's like, and I go back round again to do it again. You know, it's the most fiercest, most fastest thing you've ever been in, and there's not much else that can beat that. So, you know, you can put me in the fastest supercar as much as you like, even, you know, the Bugatti Veyron or whatever. Put me in and my car will absolutely slaughter every single one of them on a quarter mile.
Because people don't know that you are, you know, I talked about it in the opening. Obviously, again, you know, we can, well, hopefully one day we'll do a, you know, maybe when your book's out, maybe we'll pick up some other stuff with the podcast. But you're a mad petrol head. You've got tons of motorbikes, cars, but not not like, you know, you see the guys on Instagram. You make your cars, you build your cars. You started with the drag racing. I was watching with Nick Fanciulli's podcast with you talking about, you know, you started 6 seconds, 4 seconds. You know, this is unbelievable, you know, that you had your own racing team and all this kind of drag race team and stuff. People just don't know this because they only see you as the, you know, oh yes.
Yeah, and the thing is, as much as the music's gone along, you know, alongside with me from a very early age, so has cars and bikes and the interest of all of that. I mean, you know, I was always on push bikes and back in my early days with my mates, you know, going around in the woods, you know, doing speedway tracks, you know, in the woods and stuff, and crashing and jumps and all that sorts of stuff. And as soon as there was a 50cc engine on a frame of some sort of motorbike, I was in. So I had this motorbike gang many years ago around me on Yamaha's FS1Es. And if anyone remembers those bikes, they were just little tearaway bikes, you know, and we'd be down on the tanks trying to get like 56 miles an hour out of them, you know, going downhill. It's just like, you know, and all you could hear is like these little fizzies, you know. I'm sure the neighbourhood just was so pissed off with us. But, you know, I always wanted to go faster and faster and faster. So on a bike, my biggest bike at the time in the 80s was a Yamaha LCRD, which I have even still today now, which is an amazing bike. And I mean, my collection and my motorbikes at the moment now is nearly up to 100. So you can imagine old school classic bikes, new modern bikes, and an array of race bikes. And my car collection is probably up to about 32 cars, classic cars, some supercars in there.
Carl, listen, you mate, you're a brilliant man. You're an inspiration. We touched on it at the start, but you've obviously got your vinyl sessions, which you've done with Mixcloud. You've won awards for them. As you said, you're up to episode 51 or 52. It was. If people want to see you doing what you did as a 3-deck wizard, you know, and as you said in the introduction, I'll take the words out of your mouth. You said it's not clever mixing. The vinyl's going to skip. The needle's going to skip. It's going to reverb. There's going to be feedback. But it's an absolute roller coaster of your over 100,000 vinyl collection. They can where can people find that and watch that?
Yeah, well, so what we do is actually an introductory on Facebook, especially on my own Facebook official page. Mixcloud, they do put out notice if you subscribe to Mixcloud. To all the subscribers, they put out a notification that the show's coming. We do also utilize Twitch as well, and Twitter. At the same time it goes out. It is for free, you know, if you watch it at the time it goes out. But if you subscribe, it's $3.99 for a month, so it's like £1 a week, and then you can listen to it whenever you want, but you won't be able to watch it whenever you want. So it's something of which one of the reasons why I went to Mixcloud is that I don't get taken down or it doesn't get cut, because every artist that gets played on Mixcloud gets paid. I mean, there's not a lot of money in it, but at least it's something that's better than nothing, where Facebook doesn't do that. And if I did do it on Facebook, which I used to do in the early days, 9 times out of 10 guaranteed it will be cut off at least by twice. And that was really pissing people off, because then they put out a notice to say, oh, DJ sets are going to be taken down, blah, 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 which some of them actually are not. Actually, you know, some they keep going. But I think because of my popularity, I think it's one of the reasons why. And also some of the records I play, Warner Brothers seems to come in copyright to ask me to pay for certain records that I'm playing, which I'll say no, and they mute it. And I just go, well, I don't want to get into this fight. In the end of the day, I'll move on to another platform. So we're able to be on good quality. You can still have your chats and that sort of stuff on Mixcloud. It's very difficult to get people to subscribe to anything these days because they just want everything for nothing. But if you can imagine the amount of time and effort that it takes for me to do each cabin fever, with the lighting and the crew that I have to run the shows, the recording, the people that I have to basically upload the shows, make sure that they're running fine, and all of it goes with it. £1, for my show is not a lot to pay. To have something and to have all the archives of all the cabin fevers as well for £1. So you can watch it for nothing if you watch it at the time, if that's what you want to do. But I think it's not a bad price to pay based on that. At least not even I don't get the subscription that money out of it. Actually, it goes to the artist of the music that gets paid.
Guess who subscribed? I was happy as soon as I saw it. I was like that. I'm on Mixcloud all the time. I've put my sets up there, and I saw it and subscribed. You're right, but people's psychology around stuff is amazing. You go and watch you live, you pay 20 quid for a Corona. If someone says there's an app for 99p, you're like, or $5.99, you're like, fuck that, I'm not paying for that. And then you go and buy a coffee for 2 quid. It's so funny how our brain tells us when it comes to phones that in real life this is acceptable. Digital, unless it's free, we ain't paying for it. So I saw it, I subscribed to loads of things, and as soon as I saw it on vinyl, I was like, boom. Because what people don't appreciate, it's you're working for vinyl more than anything. You're actually working. You're constantly working. You're bringing the energy to put that stuff together, even to select those records and go, do you know what? I was listening to a set the other day that was on some of the music I was trying to find, which interesting enough obviously doesn't exist anywhere but in your vinyl collection or in other vinyl collections, and you did like a feature of a techno guy that I absolutely loved. But for you to go through, sift them to make sure they're all cleaned, ready to go, to mix them, to keep them balanced, keep them in time, your beat matching by ear the whole time, to put the lighting, to have people to stream it, people forget this stuff. They just see the finished article, oh, it's DJ. No idea how hard that is. So fair play, mate, and please make sure all my followers subscribe. Stop being tight asses. We're not. What a flanker fans are not tight asses, which is hopefully the case. The last thing I want to say is you were doing some amazing charity work with different people. But is it the Soundwave charity? I saw that you've been doing some stuff. You're helping to raise some money. Is that something you want to talk about, or just some plug?
My record label, Awesome Soundwave, because I've been also while I've been here in this pandemic, I've been working on a lot of live music as well, electronic live music with my machines, which I love doing. My record label, Awesome Soundwave, which we sign electronic live artists to, we put together shows, like 8-hour shows with all the different artists from all over the world that we sign on the label. And Christopher Coe is my partner on the label, who also co-produces my music as well in the studio. He's very, very well connected to Bali, the citizens and people and the residents of Bali, and they really need help. It's, at the moment, even here in Australia, Bali, again, in the sense of tourism, it normally stays up because of the Australians descend on Bali like it's Ibiza, and they haven't been able to do that at all. So, no tourists in Bali, there's no money, the families are starving, and it's really, really, it's in a very bad place at the moment. So, we, the friend of Christopher Coe's has a friend in Bali who runs this thing called the Bali Crisis Kitchen. And with the amount of money that we raised for them, which is not a great amount, but enough to keep many families in the realms of still having some food for months, and whether it's like a burger package and a salad or sandwiches, anything they can do, and they put them all in these little bundles and they send them all out to the household, which is just amazing to be able to help out in that way, just because we're doing a live stream with all our amazing artists that basically they all give up their time, they're all playing live, there's no DJs there. It's phenomenal that we're able to do this with the platform that we're able to utilize and get the word out there for for the idea of helping others. So that's what we've been doing. This is the latest thing that we've been working on with Awesome Soundwave. So we did the festival already, Awesome Soundwave Live free, and then we reintroduced it again, just so if people miss it the first time, and then they can basically see that this happened and the crisis is still ongoing, and can you please donate to help them out. And that's the narrative of that charity.
Well, listen, please, everyone who follows me, give Carl Cox a follow on Instagram, follow his Facebook. I've been James Haskell interviewing Carl Cox for What a Flanker. If you like this podcast, please share, please subscribe, please leave some feedback. We're available at on all your usual podcasting channels. It's going to be a YouTube show as well. Thank you, Carl, once again, and I'll catch you soon.
James. Take care out there, mate, and I'll speak to you soon.
Looking for a new podcast to listen to? Here's what we love, courtesy of Acast Recommends.
Hi, I'm Zibby Owens, and along with Tracy Cox, who is an international sex expert and author of 17 books, I co-host the podcast Sex Talk with Zibby and Tracy, and it's SEXTOK. And the reason we have it as Sex Talk is because we happen to be viral TikTok stars at the moment, with some of our videos getting over 1.1 million views. So listen to us. I am totally shy and squeamish. She is super open, British, and hilarious. Listen to us each week as Tracy answers 3 anonymously sourced questions about all the things you talk to your girlfriends about. Listen on Acast or wherever you get your podcasts. Sex Talk with Zibby and Tracy.
Acast recommends.